Okay, we are ready.
Let's join one another in a spirit of gratitude and presence to what is real and what's possible. I'm honored to be in the presence of so many whose hearts and minds are focused on good relationship, showing up well, being together in ways that matter in the world. And as we listen to one another today and honor the presence of our guests in particular, may we remain open in our hearts and minds, and then find inspiration to carry into the work that it is all of ours to do, each of ours to do, with deep gratitude for all that is, for the source of all life, for the impulse for life to continue on. May it be so. Blessed be and amen.
Thank you, Karen. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming. My name is Allie Tharp, and I am the Program Director of UU Ministry for Earth. And tonight we're talking about the story of plastic, and we have two really dynamo guests with us tonight, Diane Wilson and Sharon Lavigne, who, I'll be honest, are both heroes of mine. So I'm really excited for this conversation. And can everyone see me on the speaker view? Because I see Al. I want to make sure people see me. Okay. Hey, Al. So I'll just give a little backstory. The Story of Plastic documentary is made by a group called the Story of Stuff Project. And I found out about this documentary because one of the producers, Div Wilson, and I were on a plastic pollution research trip together in 2014, sailing from Bermuda to Iceland, looking at plastic pollution in the ocean. And one of the people on the boat, it was one of those like icebreaker, like, where do you want to be in 5 years? And Stiv said in 2014, I want to make this movie. And he did, and it's phenomenal. And so I'm really, just excited to share it with this community, and glad that the story of the full toxic crap that plastic is really put out there in a way that centers the impacted communities, and that we get to talk with Diane and Sharon, who are both just working really hard on this issue and doing amazing work. So with that, I will, Diane or Sharon, tonight is just a time for you to, like, if you would just give folks a bit of the background on your work around plastic, and also, you don't have to stop there. You could talk about the other chemical industrial issues you're fighting against too. We'll just give about 30 minutes for you both to share your stories and your thoughts with us, and then open it up for questions.
Okay, you want to let Sharon go first?
Sure. Sharon?
Did you go first?
Sharon, I think you're muted. Let me find you.
I'm muted. Am I unmuted?
Yep, you're good.
My name is Sharon Lavigne. I'm the director and founder of Rise St. James. In 2018, our governor, John Bell Everett, announced the approval of a $9.4 billion industry coming to St. James Parish. It would be built 2 miles from where I live. We already had 12 where I live in the 5th district in St. James Parish on the west bank of the Mississippi River. We had 9 on the east bank. When I found out he wanted to put that next to me, there's something inside of me clicked. And I started to fight. I didn't start until the fall. He announced it in the spring of 2018. I was already in an organization called Humanitarian Enterprise of Loving People.
Here we go.
So how long can I speak?
Okay, so.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. And would you be willing to just start again with the story of how you got into this struggle?
Okay. All right. My name is Sharon Lavigne. I'm the director and founder of Rise St. James in St. James, Louisiana. In the spring of 2008, our governor, John Bell Edwards, announced the approval of a $9.4 billion industry to come into St. James. This industry would be built 2 miles from my home. I couldn't understand why he wanted to put another industry in St. James because in the 5th district where I live, we have 12. On the East Bank, we have 9. So I prayed about it, talked to my God, and I asked him if he wanted me to give up my home. He said no. I asked him if he wanted me to give up my land, and he said no. So I prayed and I asked him, what should I do? And he told me to fight. So over that time, maybe about a month or so passed, he put a fight in me that made me just get off my feet and start to work to try to stop this plant from coming in. So on October the 20th, I had a meeting at my house. I had 10 people. The next meeting I had 20 people in my garage. On November 3rd, 2018, we had our first march. That was the first time I ever spoke in public about anything. So we were all excited about stopping this industry. People started to join with us. We gave marches, we gave speeches, we talked to the parish officials, we went to public hearings, and we did town hall meetings. And we stopped one other plant called Wanwan from China. It was coming into Convent, Louisiana. So we worked real hard and we stopped that one. We haven't stopped Formosa yet, but we plan to stop it. So doing that, it changed my whole life. I had to retire because I was burnt out working on my regular job, plus doing this type of work. This work is a lot of work. It takes all of your time. I've been up this morning since 9 o'clock and I haven't gotten off the phone, talking to people and setting up meetings. And I have a meeting tomorrow to talk to some people in Congress. I have meetings Saturday, 2 meetings on Saturday. Sunday would probably be the only day I would have to rest. So ever since I got into this, it's nonstop. And we can't stop. I feel if we stop, another industry will try to get in. We have 2 more industries that's trying to get in St. James in the 5th district where I live. Formosa would have been the first plant that close to me. We have other industries, but it wasn't 2 miles from my home. And Formosa, if it's built, we will not be able to live in St. James, especially the 5th district where I live. People over here are dying. They are sick. We just had a funeral the other day from someone with cancer from the industries, and also she had the COVID. So we are bombarded with industry. We are trying to live after all of these pollution. We are trying to live, and the COVID-19 came along and it's killing us more people. So we have written letters to the governor. We haven't answered our letters. The governor came here on November 1st, 2019 to ask the African Americans for their votes. I spoke to him briefly. I asked him not to let Formosa come into St. James. His answer was, I'm going to do a health study. I said, I'm going to do one too. So that means he's not going to try to stop it. We marched to the Capitol, we marched to the governor's mansion. He would not even speak with us. When he came to get our vote. So he has our vote. He just like he turned his back on us. Our public officials in St. James, they vote for every industry, almost every industry that comes in here. So I feel like I'm doing our public officials' jobs by forming an organization to stop industry from coming in, because they allow almost anything to come into St. James. I didn't realize that in 2014, our parish council voted for this area to be future industrial. When I started doing this work, that's when I found out a whole lot of things that went on when I was teaching students. And I guess I didn't know. So I learned, and I'm still learning, and I'm still going to meetings and speaking out, and people calling me to come speak at other places to help them. And I said, I'm trying to get this straight first. So it's a lot of work and it's hard. I don't even spend time with my family. My grandson came by yesterday. I was busy on the computer, on the phone with conference calls, talking to people and so forth, planning things for Rise St. James, planning things for the Coalition Against Death Alley. But we formed the coalition. It was named Coalition Against Cancer Alley. We changed it to Coalition Against Death Alley because from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, it's just like death. We have so many chemical plants in that corridor, so that means we are dying. And no one is trying to help us, especially in St. John Parish with an industry called Dinker. People are dying like flies over there. They're dying in St. James, but it looked like it's worse in St. John Parish. So I'm also a member of the Coalition Against Death Alley. I work closely with them also. So all I could say is God is the answer, and God is going to stop Formosa, and we will not allow any other industry to come into St. James. We're trying to stop two more, one called syngas. They want to come in St. James about 7 miles from where I live. They're already bombarded with two industries on each side of this little community. We have lost members in that community because they're in the middle of two industries. It's like a sandwich. And people are dying over there. No one asks to buy them out. No one cares. When they have an explosion or something, they don't even contact the residents. They have to contact the police department to tell them. So with God's help, we're going to stop Formosa. We're going to stop any other industry that's trying to come into St. James. And we also asking for a moratorium. We haven't gotten it yet. The parish council is not answering us. And we're also asking for no new expansions. We haven't heard from the parish council about that either. So it's a hard fight. And trust me, I will not stop fighting until victory is ours.
Thank you, Sharon, so much, and for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us even. It's a blessing. Thank you. You are a blessing. Diane, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Uh-huh.
I just want to say it's real good to see Sharon again. She does have a fight on her hands. She's got one of the worst rogue international polluters in the world, and one of the biggest chemical plants is landing on her front door. So I'm honored to be on the same TV screen that she's on there, and I appreciate y'all having me on. I'm from a small community in Calhoun County. It's very tiny, it's very rural, but 30 years ago, I started fighting the chemical companies when I found out this tiny county was the #1 county in the nation for toxic disposal to the land. We had half the waste that was generated in Texas. It was right here in this county. And it just so happened that was when Formosa in Texas was doing their first expansion. They was moving from 100 workers to over 3,000 workers. They were expanding $3 billion. And that's when I got to know Formosa really, really well. So I have been fighting Formosa for 30 years. I've been fighting on the plastic, which is what Sharon is, that's what they're going to get, a plastic manufacturer right in their hometown. And that's what, and for the last 10 years, I have been trying to get the agencies, the state, the national, the local officials, anybody who would help stop the massive pellet and plastic pollution they were putting in on the bay. And pretty much it was nobody would do anything. And so finally 4 years ago, I got my only allies were the workers inside the plant. The Formosa was so huge that everybody was afraid of Formosa. Nobody wants to get involved. Sharon has had a lot more people being brave and showing up. I didn't have any of that here. It's people were afraid if I went to a hearing or a press conference, I would be the only one there. And but eventually I started getting the workers inside the plant because it was non-union, and if a workers were exposed, if a worker had issues about what they were doing, if they thought they were violating the law, you can't go to the company, you couldn't go to elected officials in town, you couldn't go to state and federal, OSHA, EPA, TCEQ. And so eventually they started coming to me. And so that's where I got all of my inside information about what was really going on inside that plant and how all of the plastic pollution was being illegally discharged. So 4 years ago, about 3 workers and I started collecting by hand the pellets and the powder out there on Lavaca Bay, and Cox's Creek, because Formosa has 13 discharges, and they discharge it in the creek, they discharge it into the bay. There's a shrimp fishery out there. There is a crab, there's crabbing, there's oystering, and all of this plastic was going out into the bay, and all of this powder, this microplastic, was coming in on the tides and all over the shore. And so we started every day. We would go down to the bay, or we'd go down to the creek, and we would get a net, or we would just scoop it up and put it in bags. And eventually, the first year, we collected probably 1,500 photos, and we had over 1,000 samples. And at that time, we were just doing it because we wanted to show it was out there, but there was no one listening to us. Nobody cared. Everybody in the community, in the entire community, said we were nuts. We were totally nuts. They told everybody I needed to be put in a rest home. I was so old. They told me to put her in a rest home. And but eventually, after the first year, we got the Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. So it was a legal aid group that decided they would help us on filing a citizen clean water suit against Formosa. And so in 4 years, we collected over almost 2,500 samples. We took over 7,000 videos and photographs, and we filed suit, and we went to federal court, and I packed all of those samples into a goat cart and hauled them to a courthouse. And you ever see 2,500 samples in big plastic bins and try to put them through a security ramp? And that's what we tried to do there. And believe it or not, our case, we won our case, and it was the largest win of a citizen suit anywhere in the world. And we got $50 million to put on environmental projects. And one of the best things is we got zero discharge of plastics from that chemical plant. So they cannot discharge it. And not only that, did we get the penalties, 50 million, and we got zero discharge, we also got enforcement. So if they violate and have pellets discharging, they are fined right now it's $15,000 a day per bay, and we get to put it on projects in our community. So so mainly that's what we've been doing now, is just trying to implement zero discharge, and we're trying to make it a standard for all the plastic chemical plants in Texas. And I hope that Sharon don't even have to go that far. Just keep them out, Sharon.
Thank you both so much. I'm sure I'm not the only one cheering you on. And I wonder, yeah, why don't y'all just talk to one another about what's going on? Sharon, I know you've been going out to some grave sites that are at the proposed property where they're trying to build this plant. Can you tell us more about the graves there and the work you're doing to respect those grave sites?
Well, an archaeologist in Baton Rouge discovered a grave site.
It's a little choppy.
An archaeologist in Baton Rouge discovered the grave site. First of all, one of my attorneys asked for a records request. And then the archaeologists who were asking for that, so they let us know that they found grave sites on the property. So we alerted Formosa that we found the grave sites. Formosa knew about the grave sites 18 minutes prior to us finding about the grave sites. We went to the parish council and told them about the grave sites. They still didn't want to rescind their decision to let Formosa come in. Then I went out on the grave sites to ask them to go back and check in 2 other places, because there were other places that they had grave sites. They say they went back to check, but they didn't go back in the right places. And I also went back out there to ask them if I could put flowers on my ancestors' graves. And the security guard told me I couldn't. He told me I'd have to get in touch with the spokesperson, Miss Janelle Park. So I wrote her a letter. She denied me access to the grave sites. Then my attorney wrote her a letter quoting the law, that it's against the law to keep us from going on the grave site. And we can go out there. So we're planning to go out there on June 19th. And hopefully they won't deny us access. So that's our next step, is to go out there on the 19th of June.
Sharon, can you tell me, how does the community feel about you still fighting that?
The community is behind me, but they stay home.
Yeah, understand. Are they afraid? Or you think they're afraid, or what?
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. One lady called me, who was a distant cousin of mine. She called me last week, and she said my phone rang at her house. And I said, no, it didn't. I said, because I was on my cell phone in my car, charging my cell phone. So she kind of scared me a little bit. She said, I just want to tell you, when those people want something, they get it.
Yeah.
I had never been afraid before. She put a little, and I went to my daughter's house that night. My daughter said, Mommy, you coming again tonight? I said, no. I said, I'm not afraid. I'm not going to let a phone call scare me. I'm not afraid of anyone or anything. I told you, God put a fight in me. I was not like this before. God put this fight in me. So I'm ready for Formosa.
Yeah.
They won't even
Good
talk.
for you. Good for you. They probably know it too. They know you're not going to back down.
So other people is afraid for me.
Yeah.
They tell me they backing me up. They're for me. I'm doing a good job, but they won't come out to show their support. Just a few.
Yeah.
I feel or believe. In my heart, I feel believe they won't come out. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Nobody wants this plant here. No one wanted it here. Even the public officials don't want it here.
Yeah.
But they voted it in.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Yeah.
they are glad I'm doing this.
Yeah. What was that? What was that I heard about? The Louisiana legislature is going to, what is it, put out a resolution welcoming Formosa in Taiwan?
I heard too.
Yeah.
But tomorrow, I'll be on call tomorrow at noon to speak for 5 minutes. Robert, Taylor, and myself. So I'm getting ready for that also tomorrow.
Yeah, that's serious. That's serious when they do that.
We're having a little, both of y'all were kind of just seeing the top half of you. There you are.
We're getting closer to the keyboards. Closer.
I know. It's like, do you want to hear them or see them or both?
Yeah.
She needs to use her computer's speakers, and if she uses them, she probably has to speak into them very directly. Because
Yeah.
I use computer's speakers.
If you can move the camera.
The sound is lots better when we can see their faces.
All right. So Diane, what's with this settlement? How's it going? I mean, I saw that they're still releasing plastic sometimes, but I'm curious I mean, you've been working on bootstraps and pennies a long time. What are you going to do with $50 million?
Well, we've got some of the best projects, and they're for this community. Normally, when you have a clean water suit, is that if any money is awarded, it goes to the federal government, and even in a citizen suit it was. But we got a settlement of 50 million, and they agreed to all of these things. So it was written in a consent decree, which has backing with the federal courts. So the Justice Department signed off on it, the EPA signed off on it, and a federal judge signed off on it. And one of the first projects that we are putting $20 million into is our fisheries are gone here. I mean, we've got all these chemical plants, and that's what Sharon's people should know, is that the fisheries are no longer. The fish houses are gone. The boats don't go out. There are no places to get fuel. There's no places to get ice. And so we put $20 million into a co-op that would raise up the fishermen and a co-op so they can market their own shrimp, their own product. They can decide if they need a fish house. They decide if they need an ice house. They decide if they want to take their own product to market with trucks. So, and we have got one of the best groups in the United States from Georgia, and they were a group. Matter of fact, you probably heard of it, Sharon. They were Black farmers in Georgia who had their homes, their farms taken away from them, and they won a huge lawsuit. This has probably been 40 years ago, and with the money, they learned how to do co-ops to support the farmers in the South. And now that same group does co-ops all over the country, and they're coming to our small community and starting working with the fishermen to get a fisheries co-op. So we got 20 million going into that. We got, I believe it's 5 million that is going into, we're going to create a park from Green Lake. It's one of the biggest freshwater lakes in Texas, and we're turning that into a park for the public and for children. We gave almost $1 million to the YMCA, so they do kid camps, and they give kid camps for children who can't afford it. And we've got money that goes into Nurdle Patrol down in Corpus Christi that is monitoring the pellets all over the country. And so we put money into that. We're putting money into research what is harming the bay, and I believe probably another couple million that is going into all the erosion that has been destroyed, and so all the beaches are gone. So we've got some great projects, and like I said, this will last. Uh, uh, the 50 million will go for 5 years, and in the interim, we are working with Formosa to get engineers in there to get the plans right, that they can design the plant so they will not have pellets escaping, so those units will not have, at their source won't have pellets escaping. And it's so there will be 0 emissions. And so they expect that to probably take 4 years to do it. And so it's like, I'm still like monitoring 2 or 3 days a week, all day long, out there chasing pellets.
So we have some questions around whether who did come out and support you, and was Waterkeeper Alliance involved?
I formed a group when I first started in 1989. Believe it or not, I was 40 years old. I'm now 70, but I formed a small environmental group. It was called Calhoun County Resource Watch, and there was it was extremely controversial. Formosa was huge. It was small, rural. I was a fisherwoman and no money. And they said, matter of fact, they first said I was a spy hired by Louisiana to get Formosa out of Texas and get it sent to, get it out of Texas and send to Louisiana. So I've been called everything under the sun. And people got where they were afraid to come to the meetings because Formosa would bring in video cameras. They would bring in stenographers. I would have more people from Formosa than I would have. And so eventually people were afraid to show up. They were afraid to be seen with me. They wouldn't, like I said, if I had a press conference, if I went to a hearing, there would be nobody. It would be me. That was pretty much it. But I'm a 4th generation fisherwoman. I love that bay. And I have always said, Formosa may get a lot of stuff out of this county, but they are not getting the bay. And so it's kind of like the line I drew in the sand. It's like they're not getting it. And the thing of it is when you think you don't have an idea, then you come up with another idea. And I ended up doing a lot of civil disobedience because the petitions didn't work. The politicians wouldn't listen. Agencies didn't care. And, and most of the officials in our county were working for Formosa. So I started doing civil disobedience. I did hunger strikes. I took my shrimp boat out to sink it on top of their discharge. I've climbed chemical towers. I've been in jail a number of times. And so for whatever reason, I have not had the support. And like I said, the support I did get, I would get from the workers, which is strange. You would think, you know, you're the arch enemy of the workers, but it wasn't the case. And so, you know, I have a lot of people, you know, activists will come here and, you know, and they decide, hey, Diane, we're gonna have a little meeting and we're gonna help you get support. And they're like, we need to talk to your supporters community. And I'm like, no, it's the workers. It's the workers that I have support with all these years. It's the workers. And so I think every place must be a little bit different. And I think it helps that I'm a little bit of a introvert. I'm a little bit of a loner. So it didn't bother me overly that I didn't have people because, you know, I'm a fisherwoman. I'm on the bay. I like silence. And there's nobody to argue with you when you plan an action, which is the best. Nobody argues with you. I bet Sharon has that problem.
But I have the last say so. I have the last say so.
Yeah.
And Sharon, you have the churches out there. I know because I came down and the Poor People's Campaign came through and did a revival, and you had church leaders from lots of different churches. And I know faith is a big part of your organization. So could you speak to that? You got a bunch of church folks on the line, so I'm sure they'd appreciate hearing how spirit is a foundation for your activism.
Well, a lot of churches came because they heard about Reverend William Barber. And I heard people come in. We talked to some of the churches, and the church that's near me, Mount Calvary Baptist Church, they were honored to come. And we had our revival, and the people were singing and dancing, and it was nice. But right now, I've been trying to speak to the ministers. We have about 16 Baptist churches and a few Catholic churches in this parish. And I've called the Baptist ministers. I've called my pastor. He's Catholic, I'm Catholic. He's not from St. James, so he don't really know what's going on. And I tried to tell him a little bit about it, and he don't really know.
Sharon, could you move up a little so people can read your lips? There you go. Got it.
So I even spoke to the bishop, the Catholic bishop in Baton Rouge, to tell him what's going on. He's not from St. James, so he don't really know. And I asked him to talk to the governor. He said he would, but he didn't know if it would make any difference. So I haven't gone back to him because of the virus. And the Baptist ministers, they're always preaching and everything, and I can't get them to come to one of my meetings. I can't get the deacons to come to one of my meetings. So I have live streams like once every other week to let the people know what's going on, to let them know what Formosa is up to, and whatever news that I might find out about any industry in St. James, I bring it to the public. I have letters that we're writing to the editors, and word of mouth. But I have to stop because of the pandemic that's going on, and I'm not going to church right now because I have underlying conditions. But whenever this is over with, I will be back on the road again, talking to people, trying to get the ministers on. And we were supposed to have something at the grave site on April 9th with Reverend William Barber, but it was canceled because of the pandemic. So we had a lot of things planned, but we'll see.
And the pandemic's hit really hard in St. James, right? It's yeah. So what would, gosh, I mean, it's just these industries, to talk a bit maybe about the film, you know, it's poison and it's killing people, and it's killing people from point of extraction to workers in the plants, to the environment around the plants and the people living near the plants, to the people inhaling the fumes when they burn the plastic at the waste site, to the animals in the ocean who are eating it. So we have an entire life cycle that is based in toxins. And these, you know, you both are at the real, like, hardest hit, you know, by this. You're right next to it, and it's deeply unfair. You know, I think it's like at the core of environmental racism, that an environmental injustice, that these plants are even in your communities. And so part of why we do these webinars is because it's also this veiled issue. You know, people don't know, they don't see it, and plastic is the dominant way of our economy, you know. And one thing the Story of Plastic movie talks about is that these companies are actually trying to stay afloat as climate change is, as climate activism is causing a reduction in, you know, in fossil fuel use in industry, in transportation. They're trying to exponentially increase plastics as a way to keep production high and keep their profits high. So, you know, I wanted to hear your thoughts about just the environmental injustices of these companies, of this, you know, way of economy, way of you know, really making these impacts invisible for the most part to people, and in the meantime killing your neighbors and your community. You know, it's hard. And I think the silence, that it's hard to respond knowing that you're dealing with so much loss, Sharon, and so much total disregard for your community. So yeah.
Where I live in the 5th district is 90% African American. We already have all of these industries here. Some of the people were bought out by different industries, and the poor people are still here. We don't have any money to move. We don't want to move, first of all. And we feel like this is our home, and we feel like they shouldn't come in here to invade our space. Let them go somewhere else and make their own space. So they're looking to just kill us off. They know if that plant come here, we will not be able to live, because we will not be able to breathe the air. The air will triple in the 5th district and double in the 4th district. But the other districts in St. James, like the 7th district, they don't think this plant will affect them. Because as we pass out flyers, one lady says she's glad the plant is coming. She lives in South Boston. She don't think it's going to hurt her. For her. The air don't stop at the parish line. The air will go from one end of the parish to the next, and it will go across the river also. So they're living in a dream world, thinking that it's not going to affect them. If I would have thought it wouldn't affect me, I wouldn't be saying a word either. But knowledge is power. What I learned about this plant and the effects it had in Texas, and oh, baby, they need to be educated. And a lot of people that I talk to and tell them about this, they don't know. They don't know about the ones that we have here already either. And then for this one here to come in, I have a lot of talking to do, a lot of literature to pass out to the people, and I've been doing that. We gave plate lunches away for Mother's Day weekend, and we put our little flyers on there, asking them if they want to join Rise St. James, and giving them literature about what these chemical plants can cause with us breathing the air. And a lot of them are thanking us. A lot of them didn't know. And we plan to do something for Father's Day weekend. We plan to give a gift box to the people in the parish. But it's a way of giving out information to the public. We don't just give out a gift box. We put information in that box. So when they open the box, they can read about it. So we have to educate the people. The people don't know. The ones that's gone, they already knew. And you know, they also sold our high school. We had one high school in the 5th district. They sold this to a plant from China. And it's called Rice to Die. That made me wonder what was going on in the parish when they sold our high school. That was one reason why I started to look into things. And when they sold our high school, that just meant something to me. That was the only high school we had. So we had to drive like about 10, 12 more miles, you know, to go to work, and children had to go to school. They had to drive further from where I live to go to the other school. So they built this school in another district, and now they want to build a tank farm around the school. So I want to see the people in that district is going to fight the tank farm.
And don't you have, there's a, in St. John's right next to you, you have this facility that's like all of the like scuba suits, that plastic, like 99% of what's produced of that in the country is in St. James, and it's right next to an elementary school, right? Or like a, could you say that again?
Called Dinker DuPont.
Oh, it's DuPont?
It's right next to an elementary school. It was called DuPont at first. Then they changed the name to Dinker. And it's 1,500 feet from an elementary school. Right. And
Sharon, I think I'm not the only one who's sitting here with a heart breaking over and over again. And what I wanted to ask is if your Facebook or any other place is an opportunity for those of us from all over the country to support in some way, either writing letters or making phone calls or sending money. What's possible to support you?
phone calls.
Phone calls.
Our governor, call St. James public officials, call St. James Parish president. If you gotta beg them, ask them not to put this plant in St. James. Whatever you think you can do it. But I think the phone calls would be the most effective.
That's really helpful to hear. Thank you.
And you know something else? Our parish council members, they voted this plant in here.
Yeah.
But they are glad we are fighting it. But they won't bring it back to the board, you know, to rescind it, to redo it. We asked them to bring it back. They gave us a deaf ear. So if you can call them and talk to them and ask them to please rescind their decision, go back and redo it again and let Formosa hit the road. I really would appreciate that, really. You can make the phone calls.
I promise that I will make some phone calls tomorrow.
So are there any other questions for Sharon and Diane about the work they're doing? I know I saw one question about what do you think is the solution to the plastic, single-use plastic, all the waste and all the harm that it's causing? Do you have thoughts on how we need to change the system?
I think we need to get rid of single use for sure. Absolutely.
That's what I think also. We can go back to the way it was with the bottles. We can use glass bottles again. We can put milk in bottles. We don't have to have plastic. But they don't understand that. The citizens and the people of this world are so used to the plastics until they wouldn't want to go back to the other way, you know, with the bottles and everything else. But we have to go back to it because the stuff they make the plastic out is cancer causing. So once the people know that and we educate them, education is what we have to give to the people. That's what they don't know because I didn't know it either until I learned. So we need to educate the people. I told my group that I want us to put a little paragraph each week in our church bulletin. Put a little paragraph in our local newspaper telling what this chemical will cause because they don't know. Tell them that benzene is cancer causing and they're dumping it into our river, which is our drinking water. People don't know those things. Look at me. I taught for 39 years. I didn't know anything. I just was teaching school and go home, go to church, and that was it. But we need to know what these chemicals are causing. I drunk this water for all of these years, not knowing they had these chemicals in the water. I didn't know. And this plant that's right next to me, like about 2.5 miles, American Styrenics, this plant had a leak in India, and so many people died. How do you think I feel? I live right here next to this plant. This plant should not be St. James. I would like to close it down. Oh, it's so hard to close it down because they've been there for so many years, they tell me. So all I do is pray and ask God not to let them have a leak. It's frustrating.
Sharon, is there a Department of Health in your precinct or your county?
In Baton Rouge, yes.
Do they keep records about how many people are getting cancer in different areas?
No.
That might be one thing to lobby for, the statistics.
Somebody tell me I should run for councilman. I don't think I know I would win, but I won't be able to get anything done because I'll be stuck with all the other issues. I want this issue to stop the plant.
Yeah.
Stop Formosa for sure.
I want to stop. That's the bad one.
Yes. And they just keep expanding, Sharon. They just keep growing. And then they'll bring in a downstream plant. And then another one. That's what they do here. And then they'll ruin your community and buy out the homes, and they will move the school away. And Formosa will take over the school and make it their training center. That's what they did down here. Yeah.
That's also told our parish council that they're going to build the worst part. They're going to take the worst part of the plant and put it on the other side away from the school. They lied to the parish council. They have no intentions on moving the worst part away from the school. And we told the parish council that.
Yeah. Well, now they have to bus the children all the way across the causeway to go to school. The community is gone. It's just Formosa now. Yeah. They will ruin it. They will ruin it.
Diane, you have a lot of experience with international solidarity with the people in Bhopal, India, and DuPont. And, this is another international company that's hurt other communities around the world. And so I'm curious what advice and lessons you have about how to be in solidarity with communities around the world fighting the same corporations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would, I'm, like I said, I'm from a very small community. I'm from Seagriff, 1,000 people. Okay. I mean, we don't even have a red light in this community here, but, and it's still very rural, but I guess keeping up the fight, and that's what Sharon should remember, keeping up the fight. People hear about you. And, it was when I had been in the environmental fight, maybe 2 years, people from associated with Bhopal contacted me, and I went to India. And then a year later, people from Taiwan heard about me, and I've been to Taiwan 3 times. And I remember one of the last times I was in Taiwan, we went to the shareholders meeting in Taiwan for Formosa, and they had in Taiwan they call them thugs. It's security, but they call them thugs. And there was 40 thugs at the door blocking it, and there were so many people, activists, that were supporting me in Taiwan. I was amazed. I was blown over by the support in Taiwan from those people. And there was so much media. and we met in a storm with the thugs at the door, and the door literally burst open, and we all just fell on the floor. So we, so, you know, it's just stay in the fight and be open to it and do something that feeds yourself, Sharon. You do it anyway. You need something to feed your soul, and it will keep you going. And I think and I believe you're right, is that you've got a destiny here, a fate here, a mission here, and all you got to do is do it. And it's a hard go. I know it. I know it.
Well, I'm supposed to meet on Zoom with somebody in Taiwan.
Oh, wow. Good for you. Go, go. They were great. I loved the people in Taiwan. I really did. They were, and they have so much. I mean, when I was there, they were telling me people were disappearing, and people that were teachers were just, you know, because I mean, it's pretty hardcore over there about speaking out and getting involved, and you know, and the things that will happen over there. But I have never seen such a spirit of solidarity for me and for in the fighting for Mosa. They were amazing. You will find them to be amazing, Sharon. They will love you.
Okay.
So thank you all both for making this time with us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.